Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Tamara Thompson with Mockingbird Education, and today we're going to look at Ready to Learn. And I know we have a lot of different types of participants on the line today. We have those of you who have memberships with Mockingbird for curriculum. We have individuals who have memberships with Mockingbird with instruction. And then we have new people who have no context necessarily for Mockingbird and the work that we do. My goal is to try to meet everybody's needs. If you're not interested in the curriculum itself, that's okay. There's some really good ideas in here on how to create and design curriculum for yourself. If you are interested in that curriculum or you're already using that curriculum, this would be a nice introduction and a review of that information so that you can maximize that curriculum to make the most out of the resource that you have. Again, I'm Tamara Thompson. Welcome to the webinar. If you'll find that chat box, thank you. Thank you. You're already using that chat box. We'll use that chat box a little bit as we navigate forward. This is a little different than an instructional training that Mockingbird would typically do, as most of the information I'm going to provide to you today is informational. But please stop me at any time, ask me questions. It's a very different curriculum, and it's a very unique curriculum for a very specific context. And again, even if you're not interested in the curriculum itself, there's a lot of strategies or a lot of information in here that can help you design your own curriculum if you find yourself in that context. I want to say hello to Youth Build. I know there's several Youth Builds on the program. It's good to see you. Also, I see a lot of familiar faces in adult education. So let me share with you a little bit about Ready to Learn. In that chat box, go ahead and give me a question mark. That question mark is, what is Ready to Learn? Let me give you just the big picture. On the screen, you should see, and give me a nod if you don't mind, a visual nod. It should say roadmap, and then you'll see like a table of contents on the left. Is that what you were seeing? Perfect. So let me share with you what Ready to Learn is, big picture, and then we'll look at some of these details related to it. Ready to Learn is a HSE, high school equivalency prep curriculum that combines, let me let people in the room, that combines academics, workforce development, and career exploration into one curriculum. That's the big picture of what it is. Now let me break down some of these details for you so that we can see what that looks like. Really quickly, while I have everybody on the line, let me just remind you who Mockingbird is and how we do this work. That's important because you're going to see that personality and that research behind who we are in the work itself. Mockingbird Education focuses on vulnerable learners. Those are learners that are struggling with these challenges right here that you see on the left. And really the approach that we do is based in a methodology that's based in about 70 years of research. And that research is, gosh, everything from neurobiology to epigenetics to psychology, social psychology. We blend different elements of research together to create a holistic approach where the center is really this: to make learning visible, active, and anytime we make it active for learners who are vulnerable, it's really important that we make it psychologically safe and socially non-threatening. That's the core of everything that we do. We provide professional development, curriculum, and technical assistance. We're working all around the world. Our work can be found in like 46 states, 12 countries. It's been translated into 4 languages. That's a little bit of scope of who we are. And the reason why I share that with you, it's really important to the curriculum itself, particularly this right here, that learning is visible, active, psychologically safe, and socially non-threatening. We look at that work through the lens of helping educators. There's some of the research behind the methodology and the curriculum for that matter. We really help teachers play 3 roles, particularly in this curriculum. And those roles, excuse me, are this: to be a facilitator, to be a coach, and a coach is someone who conditions students for the process of learning, and then finally to be a mentor. Excuse me 1 second. I'm not trying to give you a confusing screen. I'm just trying to let somebody in the room. Let me see if I can let them in. Da, da, da. I have 2 people in the waiting room. Let me see if I can let them in. 1 second. Let me see if I can let them in the room. I apologize. One second. Sorry, I'm trying to find my screen so that I can let them in the room. Here we go. Here we go. Now I'm admitting people know. Excuse me, I've been on the road doing live training. It's been a minute since I've been on Zoom. Couldn't find my connection there. There we go. Now, that being said, an introduction to who we are, we really help teachers play three roles: a facilitator, a coach, and a mentor. And you're going to see that in the curriculum itself. Now, let me take you back to this roadmap here of the curriculum. Again, it combines academics, career exploration, and workforce development. Let me give you a little bit of insight into who this curriculum is designed for. Let me go here. Here's the student profile. The student profile is for students who are low intermediate, who are functioning at a 4.5 to 5.9. The goals of the curriculum are this: HSC preparation. Our goal is that if you complete all of the curriculum, that you'll be prepared to take your HSC equivalency exams, that you will have had the opportunity, if you do the curriculum in duration, to explore 4 different career pathways: business, manufacturing, healthcare, and hospitality. And then there's workforce development skills built into the curriculum. And then finally, we help learners with those what we call learning to learn skills. Remember that as a teacher, we are a facilitator, a coach, and a mentor, and that coaching aspects of conditioning students for the learning process. In the curriculum, we've built in what we call academic training wheels, which are those academic skills like note-taking and visual literacy, reading graphs and charts, a lot of those test-taking skills that we know our learners need, but don't necessarily have that background. We've built those elements into the curriculum itself. So that's the student profile. Now, it's 4.5 to 5.9. I do have programs that ramp that up, or I should say level that up and down depending on their needs. Another thing that's worth mentioning is that it's not an ESL curriculum. However, because our background's in cognition, which is the science of how we think and how we learn, you're going to see a lot of the same strategies in a cognition that you would see in ESL. That's the profile of the curriculum. Let's actually look at the schedule or the layout of it. Ready to Learn is a 22 unit curriculum. Now, it's 22 unit curriculum. It's designed to run a program off of the curriculum, which means that it has a beginning and an end. In those 22 units, Unit 1 and Unit 2 are orientation units. A lot of adult education programs have orientation where they enroll learners into their program, both motivationally and preparation. This has 2 units of that enrollment built into the curriculum itself. It also has a closing unit, which is that transition from the curriculum to their next stage, which hopefully is employment, right? Or whatever that next stage is in their life. So it's a curriculum that's designed to be delivered in sequence. However, I have programs who only deliver units or lessons out of the curriculum and don't necessarily use the curriculum in order. I see as much variation across Ready to Learn as I do programs in terms of how they deliver the program. You could do a unit a week, you could do a unit over 2 weeks. Some programs buffet that. It's a little bit about that schedule. Now, let me share with you a little bit more about what that means from an HSC preparation perspective. It is an HSC preparation curriculum. That's math and RLA. Now, the first question immediately, if you perhaps have GED or high set testing in your state, is, okay, well, what about the social studies and the science? This is an HSC preparation curriculum. It does not include science and social studies lessons. However, because of the overlap of the foundational elements of social studies like reading comprehension, visual literacy, critical thinking, all of that is going to be in the curriculum, just not the content specific elements of science and social studies. For example, you know, I've seen on the GE test many times, they'll test, just an example, letters from a Birmingham jail, that Martin Luther King piece. Like, it's not going to have some of the specific social study pieces, but it does cover the foundational elements of academic thinking and planning. Now, again, let me take you back here for a second. It's academics that blend workforce development and career exploration into that curriculum. Let's talk about what that looks like, because we have different types of enrollment that programs experience. And let me ask that question, if you don't mind, in the chat box. If you can share with me the type of enrollment you have. Is it fixed, where learners come in at a set time? Is it open enrollment, or where learners come in, say, monthly? Or is it continuous enrollment? If you don't mind providing that for me in the chat box, I'll speak to those different pieces of it, because I see all different types of programs use the curriculum from those different enrollment types. Yeah, thank you. Continuous enrollment, sure. Yeah, so let's look at this curriculum from an enrollment perspective. So the curriculum is math and RLA, right? And they're designed to be delivered together, although I do have programs who just deliver one or the other. The major things, it's a contextualized curriculum. We'll talk more about what that means. Thank you, Audrey. We'll talk more about what that means, but it essentially is organized into thematic blocks, and there's 6 blocks in the curriculum. It's easiest to describe the blocks as the math, as the skeleton, which is, this is numeracy, math, numeracy. Think of this as algebra 1, algebra 2, and geometry, just to give you examples of what those academic blocks are. The math blocks, so if this is math and this is RLA, they are designed so that they can be implemented together, so that a math and an RLA unit function together and can be delivered at the same time. Here's what that means: that if unit 3, for example, is about pharmacy technician, then in math, it will also be about pharmacy technician in the RLA. So the units are designed to be implemented together, and there's natural entry points. Every time you see this little person on the screen, that's a natural entry point for enrollment. Now, if you're in continuous enrollment, that doesn't necessarily perhaps apply to you. You could break this up into different ways, but it was originally designed, and I can share with you just a little bit of history of that curriculum. It was a community college in the state of Arizona, the largest community college system in Arizona, approached us, I think it was 2017 or 15, and asked if we would design a contextualized curriculum built off of the methodology for the community college system. And that's the background of the curriculum. They needed that curriculum to be a stepping stone, if you will, into the community college system, and in particular to help students prepare for one of 4 pathways: healthcare, manufacturing, business, and hospitality. So their program was an open enrollment, which means they have, or more like what you have, Audrey, which is fixed enrollment, right? You have periods where learners can enter in at certain times. So we designed the curriculum off of that norm. It's not the ideal curriculum for continuous enrollment, but I have programs who use it and use it successfully in there. It just takes a little bit more challenge on what that looks like. Now, let me share with you a little bit about the academics, the workforce, and the career exploration. Now, this is a contextualized curriculum. Now, what does that mean? Contextualization means different things to different programs. Give me a question mark in that chat box. That question mark is just, okay, well, what is contextualized learning? Here's what contextualized learning is. Contextualized learning, this is so important right now, because I know so many people online are experiencing this. We've gone through the pandemic, right? The pandemic, we know that enrollment is down across programs, and the research is showing that the #1 predictor or indicator of students staying in school is really that student-teacher relationship, and the teacher making learning engaging. And contextualized learning is really that. It's a way to make learning not only engaging, but relevant and applicable to the learners that it serves. Contextualized learning is when you take learning and we contextualize it in real world workforce scenarios. So for example, the academics in a unit, let's say, I think it's unit 4 is pharmacy technician. The math that is in unit 4 is ratio and proportion. So what unit 4 does is it takes the math and it creates a mock or a simulated internship at a hospital where learners are exploring the career of pharmacy technician, and it helps learners work through ratios and proportions as pharmacy technicians really use ratio and proportions in their jobs. So it contextualizes math, which is AKA ratio and proportions, in the context of how a pharmacy technician would really use those skills. All of the careers, and there are 19 careers that are featured across Ready to Learn, contextualize learning in, or rather contextualize academics in the learning. Let me share with you, let me go right here. Here are the different careers that are featured in Ready to Learn. Every unit features a different career. All of these careers are in one of 4 career pathways. Those 4 career pathways, again, healthcare, manufacturing, business, and hospitality. All of the careers that were chosen and that you see here have a projected growth rate of at least average to above average, as indicated by the Department of Labor. So what the curriculum does, very different than a worksheet curriculum. This is not a worksheet curriculum, meaning that this is not a curriculum where teachers walk into the room and they hand out worksheets. This is a curriculum where the teacher is a facilitator and facilitates the process of learning. They create the scenario. You have all the materials to create this scenario where a learner comes in and goes, hey, this week we're exploring medical assistance, or this week we're exploring cosmetology. And then over the course of that unit, the students explore the academic topics in the context of that chosen profession. That's what contextualized learning is. And the crazy thing about contextualized learning is the concept is really, really simple. But in reality, if you've ever written contextualized lessons, you appreciate the difficulty of how hard it is to actually create really effective contextualized lessons. But that contextualization provides relevancy and value, which is really important for adult learners. And it also provides that level of engagement because all of your activities in here are going to be interactive and humanistic based, which means that they focus on meaning making and asking questions. So let me share that with you about this curriculum. So this curriculum, again, is for an educator who wants to facilitate a learning experience, who really cares about student engagement. That type of curriculum is what we call a humanistic curriculum. And the activities in a humanistic curriculum really center on the learner, a multi-sensory learning experience where learners are self-evaluating, they're asking questions, they're participating in discussion, they are using their hands, their minds, their hearts. It is an interactive and engaging curriculum. That's really important because it distinguishes it from a curriculum where you hand out a worksheet and students work the worksheet. This is an experience. Making learning active, visible, psychologically safe, and socially non-threatening, which are the tenets of the Mockingbird methodology, really are the vehicle that drive the curriculum forward. It's about participation, variation, self-discovery, relevancy. These are the challenges that we have in engagement. It's trying to combine, it being the curriculum is trying to combine instruction, effective instructional strategies with effective curriculum strategies so the learner gets a holistic learning experience. That's the style of curriculum that it is. In each unit, and let me share with you that unit, let's look at that. Each unit, there are 22 units, are broken down like this. A quick tour of what that looks like. There are 4 lessons in each unit for the math and 4 lessons in the RLA. Lesson 1 is exactly the same in both the math and the RLA. This is a thematic unit, which means that this unit could be about pharmacy technician, or this unit may be about construction laborer or cosmetologist. It is the profession that organizes the unit or holds the unit together. In lesson 1 of every unit, each lesson's about 2.5 hours to 3 hours in length. In Unit 1, the learner is introduced to the lesson, or excuse me, introduced to the unit itself. It's introduced to the career. They practice their academic training wheel skills like visual literacy. Hey, what does a cosmetologist do? How much money do they make? It works through visual literacy so they can see the employment projection of that profession, works through academic skills, foundational academic skills, and a workforce development topic related to that unit's profession. So for example, in cosmetology, I think the workforce development topic is workplace dress or professional attire. What's appropriate to wear if you're a cosmetologist and you show up to work? Can you wear shorts? Can you have tattoos? All of the workforce exploration topics are not dichotomous, meaning that they're not a black or white answer. It really puts the student in a gray area where they have to explore that workforce development topic. There's not necessarily a right or wrong answer to it. That's really important for two reasons. One, from an engagement perspective, right? And two, because it's humanistic. It's about meaning making and not necessarily the teacher being the source of knowledge, but rather facilitating the process of knowledge. So Unit 1 introduces, or excuse me, Lesson 1, I apologize, introduces the unit. And then in Lesson 2, it is an academic concept. This is where they focus on like ratio and proportions in math, or point of view, perhaps in RLA. This is where they work on the unit's academic concept in context to the profession. Lesson 3 is a practice or procedural knowledge lesson. This is where learners practice their individual procedural skills related to that academic concept. And then 4 is really about critical thinking and writing and presentation skills. When you're looking at the curriculum, you have this much curriculum, but you only have this much time to teach it in. And that's what we call better problems. And by better problems, I mean, most of the clients that we have that use the curriculum, one of the challenges that they experience is like, gosh, there's so much curriculum and I want to teach this piece, or I want to teach this piece, but you only have this much time to deliver it in. That's a different problem than not having curriculum and trying to figure out how you're going to make curriculum engaging, authentic, contextualized, blended with workforce development, and all of the other factors that you and I are trying to constantly navigate while we're developing curriculum. Now, looking at the big picture again, each unit has 4 lessons. They're going to, across that unit, explore the academics, the career, and the workforce development. However, I want to share with you a little bit of information about the academics themselves and how those academics are organized, because the math and the RLA do something different across the curriculum and how they're structured and organized. And that's based on the research on how we know that learners learn math most effectively and learn reading language arts most effectively. So look at these 2 pictures right here. Whoop, I'm sorry. This is scaffolding, and this is what we call spiraling. So the math is what we call scaffolding, which means that one block builds off the next block, which builds off the next block. And then spiraling is when you introduce a topic and then you circle back around to that topic to provide more depth on it. Let me share with you a little bit about what that means. Let's look at the math. Now, in adult education, we know that what's difficult about adult education, one of the things that's difficult about adult education is the students that are here today might not have been the students who were here yesterday. The writers of this curriculum were all adult education educators. And although the curriculum is divided into blocks, this is block 1, block 2, each block has a number of units in it. So this is a block, this is a block, this is a block. What we know is that when our learners come to us on a daily basis, they may have missed the day before or the previous 2 days. That being the case, our writers try really hard to make each lesson stand alone so that you don't necessarily have to be in the lesson before that in order to participate in this lesson. Now that's an ideal. In reality, does it help to have central tendency information before you do ratio and proportions? Of course it does. That's what scaffolding is. It's a natural building block off of the previous content before. However, in adult ed, we try our hardest in this curriculum to make those lessons stand alone because of the chronic absenteeism challenge that we have in adult education. So math is scaffolded across the blocks. We know that this is the most effective way to engage in math, but reading language arts is different. When you look at the HSC preparation exams, what you find is that these themes, point of view, analyze, and relationships, the themes that I have listed right here, are really the foundational organizational blocks to reading language arts. And so what this curriculum does is, while math is scaffolding across the blocks, reading language arts filters through these foundational topics. And then in the next block, it goes through those topics again with a variation and with different depth. The goal of a spiraled curriculum is that you gradually release and gradually build the skill over time, so that at the end of that curriculum experience, you will have multiple exposure points to the same concepts, thus building proficiency and effectiveness in those contexts. To make that in the most simplest form possible, it's to take this run here, evaluating evidence. You don't learn how to evaluate evidence in one lesson, right? That is a skill, that's a conceptual skill that we learn over time through repeated exposure. And that is the process upon which Ready to Learn Reading Language Arts is designed. So that gives you a little bit of the organization of the math in RLA. Now let me give you a moment just to look at the topics themselves. There's the math topics, so you can see those topics. If you'll give me an R in that chat box when you're ready, I just want to give you a moment to see what the topics are. Give me an R in that chat box when you're ready for me to move forward. Thank you, Dora. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Danny. Yeah. So here is RLA. Let me give you a moment to see the RLA topics. Whoop, apologize. There's the RLA topics. If you'll give me a T this time, when you've had a chance to look at those topics, that just tells me that you're ready to move forward. Thank you, Felisa. Got it, got it. Here's the workforce development topics. Now, each unit features a workforce development topic, and each unit also features a character employability trait. These are the 9 employability traits that are featured across the curriculum. I'll give you a moment to look at that. So I have some programs who take out the workforce development topics. They're in lesson 1 and run their whole workforce development program just off of lesson 1. I have other programs who build that directly into their existing program. There's different ways to do that because of the volume of curriculum that you have. Give me a WD in that chat box when you're okay to move forward. Haven't seen those topics. Thank you, thank you. And then here are those careers, which I shared with you earlier. But I want to share with you one more time to share this with you. As we know, engagement is a huge factor. This is a career exploration curriculum, which means that they're not going to get depth in any one of these careers. The point of the career exploration is that over the course of the curriculum, they're exposed to different careers to determine whether or not this is a potential pathway that they might be interested in. From an engagement perspective, though, what was important about how the curriculum was designed is that we didn't do all healthcare as one part of the curriculum in a sequence and then do hospitality. The units bounce across these 4 career pathways: business, healthcare, manufacturing, and hospitality, for engagement purposes, because if a learner already knows that they're interested in healthcare, they're not going to show up for 4 weeks, regardless of how beneficial that academic skill is for them. So this week, this might be business. The next week, it might be hospitality. It bounces across, if you use the curriculum in sequence, across those career pathways, so they get exposure and breadth across those pathways, not necessarily depth. Again, it's a career exploration curriculum. Now, it is a what we call a respect the gradient or gradual release curriculum, meaning that each lesson builds off of the previous lesson, but is also designed so that it stands alone. You can deliver just lesson 2s if you want to. You can deliver just lesson 4s if you want to. But our recommendation is that you maintain the integrity of a unit being lesson 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you're really working in blocks of 9 to 12 hours of instruction if you really want to give that unit fidelity. I just want to share that with you as an understanding of both the volume of curriculum that you have and the diversity in which you can implement that curriculum. And then let me show you just one other thing that I think is important to this curriculum, which is the learning to learn skills. In every unit 1, there is a foundational academic skill that is embedded in the curriculum, that's contextualized actually in the curriculum. And these are some of those cognitive and learning to learn skills. We treat the facilitator, again, as if they have 3 roles. They're a facilitator, they're a coach. A coach conditions the students for the learning experience. These are some of those skills that help a learner become conditioned, if you will, for being a better learner or having a better learning experience. For example, it's really helpful for learners to understand problem solving and have a formula or a heuristic to help them with a problem solving process. It's really helpful for learners. This VCQs, visualize, connect, and question, is a reading comprehension strategy. These are strategies that most learners would have been exposed to in their K through 12 or in their previous academic biography, that either they're missing those skills or they're not proficient in those skills. And unfortunately, many educators assume that learners have these skills when they're in adult education. So these skills are built directly into the curriculum. Now, that being said, let me share with you a little bit what the resources are. This is one of those interesting curriculums because it's not a workbook, it's not a worksheet curriculum, right? You don't hand out a worksheet and then students complete that worksheet. This curriculum is really about student engagement and the educator facilitating a learning experience. That being said, it is designed for the teacher to facilitate. So you have an instructor guide, you have PowerPoints that literally navigate that learning experience for you. And it's really designed for 2 types of teachers. It's designed for those, what I call baby Yoda teachers, teachers who are not familiar with adult education, who are not familiar with vulnerable learners, step by step by step. They can go through that process of creating an engaging learning experience. However, if you're a master educator, you're going to open up a slide deck and you're going to see 180 slides. Every question, a discussion question, is put on a different slide. It's done that way so that you can facilitate the learning experience, which means it's absolutely overwhelming for students to see a slide and there be 5 discussion questions on that slide. It follows those principles of cognitive design in how the information is delivered. However, if you're a master educator, you may only want to use 2 of those questions or 3 of those questions. Our goal is to provide the information for you, provide the step-by-step for those teachers who need the step-by-step, but also provide you the pick and choose if you're a master educator and only need to pick and choose. Now, my personal experience has been this, is that those 2 statements, being a baby Yoda teacher or a master educator, don't really apply to us as a whole, but rather by topic. I could be really strong in one particular area, like point of view, and flip through some slides fairly quickly and pick out some questions. But in another topic that I teach, and this is so important in adult education when we run those one room schoolhouse scenarios, right? In math, I may need more step by step to walk through it because I'm just not as proficient as an educator in that particular topic. Each unit has 4 PowerPoints, an instructor guide, a learner workbook, All the resources, all the vocabulary are placed in imagery. Imagery is a huge element of the curriculum to make it multi-sensory. What the beautiful thing about the curriculum is you have everything. Here's the challenging thing about the curriculum. You have everything. So when you first see it, you're like, oh my gosh, this is a lot of information. This is, how do I organize this? And that's what Mockingbird is here for. We'll help you walk through that process of how to use it, understand in your context to figure out what the best decisions are for your program and help you make those decisions. I can share with you how different programs have used it in different ways, so on and so forth, to find that right match for you. It's pretty extensive in terms of research. In terms of resources. Our goal is this: program in a box. You have what you need to deliver the curriculum. They'll need a little practice on some of the procedural skills that you will supplement that. But this is a curriculum that's designed to run a program off of that curriculum. Now, I have different types of programs on the line here. I'll give you pricing, but I know that different programs are in different places in that. Some of you are already using the curriculum, so this isn't relevant to you. Each curriculum is $5,000, and then there's a $5,000 annual membership. That annual membership is the instructional support that Mockingbird provides. We are in the process, continue always to be in the process of moving all the methodology into an online format. I know several of you I just saw last week through the instructional membership in Ohio. I don't want to take up time online here regarding pricing because you can contact me personally. If you're interested in the curriculum, let me know. There's different ways to onboard. Some programs will purchase it, spend 3 months exploring it, letting teachers use it at will, and then have a clear start point. There's different ways of implementing it depending on the context of your program. Mockingbird can help you with those pieces and those decisions. What's important to know is a couple of things about in terms of implementation. It is not a curriculum designed for all programs. This is a curriculum that's designed around student engagement. It's designed to create a learner experience. If I could just speak bluntly and share with you that if you have lazy teachers, and by lazy I only mean that they hand out those worksheets and they're just preparing them for that test, I got to get them to this test, and that is the focus, this isn't the curriculum for your program. This is a program that is preparing learners to become better learners, to be prepared for the HSC preparation exam, and to be deeply engaged in the process of learning. For those teachers who are interested in contextualization and are interested in how do I make learning more engaging and relevant and applicable, this is a good curriculum for teachers who are in that context. That's not a judgment on the different contexts. I mean, some organizations are test prep organizations, and that's their focus and their purpose. This isn't a curriculum for that particular type of program. This is a curriculum for a program who is really interested in the investment of the learner in workforce development and the learner experience. And those are important elements as we move forward. Some of the research that we know from the pandemic just in general is that this is what kept students coming to our programs during the pandemic was engagement and student-teacher relationships. So it's timely for those programs who fit that context. I'll stop right there. I'm happy to answer questions related to the curriculum and or otherwise. I know we have a lot of different context on the line. You can certainly contact me if you're interested more in this curriculum, but I don't want on this line right now to take care of just those people who are interested in purchasing the curriculum. I know there's people who come from different contexts, so let me make sure that I'm meeting your needs, because some people came here to look at the ideas of what is contextualized curriculum. How do you create it? Yeah, Audrey, talk to me. Just unmute, Audrey. You don't have, so okay. Formal, Audrey.
Well, I don't want to interrupt you.
Yeah, you're fine.
So do you have programs that use it right now, not for high school credential? So the specific question that I have is, we have high-level workforce certification classes, but not everyone who comes to us with a high school diploma is academically ready. So the reason that we came on today, I know we explored this years ago,
right.
My supervisor's on, is we need something, we don't want to turn them away, but if they go to a class that's kind of GED prep, that's not the place for them. So the question is, if the academics, they're taking not a high stakes exam, but CASAS is the adult standardized test that we use. Do you think academically, this could help them because they really do need to see gains in that, but they also need to know that they're working towards their workforce goals.
Yeah, because you're going to fill in gaps, right? And you're going to emphasize the experience and the preparation that they need to get to the next level. I think you're going to be fine. Will you use it in sequence? I don't know. I don't know if you'd want to use it in sequence or not. That depends on what kind of time frame you have with those learners. But yeah. I not all of my programs are necessarily HSC preparation programs, right? The majority of them are, but not all of them. Some of them are just feeding into like a community college system, or they're using it as a air quote, okay, pre-apprenticeship. Right. Yeah, it's a good question. Other questions, thoughts, ideas? So what I'm going to do is let me stop that recording. I'm going to stay on the line for people who may want to stay on the line to talk to me, ask further questions. If you're interested in the curriculum, I know there's a couple of people who already use the curriculum or just getting re-familiar so that you can go back and share some of the pieces with your staff. Reach out to me. I'm more than happy for us to do another introduction to your staff at your community college or your adult ed. No big deal. Just let me know what that looks like so we can put it we can get a calendar together that makes sense. Let me, and Audrey, if you want to, and you may not have time right now, if you want to stay on, I can certainly, we can talk about about that context, because I know you guys had it before, right? And what does that mean about coming back to it potentially and telling me a little bit about how your context might have changed since then?